Have you ever been told you only have two options to choose from, when in reality there's a world of other possibilities? Have you ever seen a brilliant person silenced and their reputation tarnished before they even uttered a single word? If these situations sound familiar, then you are about to add 5 advanced intellectual weapons to your arsenal. Welcome to Cogitoski. Grab your coffee and let's get straight to it. The 16th fallacy in our series, and one of the most powerful tactics of intellectual assassination, the poisoning the well fallacy. Imagine you're in a village that relies on a single water well. Before your enemy comes to drink from it, you secretly go and pour poison into it. Now, it doesn't matter how thirsty your enemy is or how pure the water originally was. The well has become deadly. In the world of debate, the well is the audience's mind, and the poison is abusive or negative information you spread about your opponent before they even begin to present their argument. The goal is to create a preemptive bias that makes it impossible to evaluate their argument objectively. A business world example asterisk in a board meeting, just before the young marketing director begins to present his innovative plan, the veteran CFO says, "Now we'll hear the vision of the younger generation who grew up on the internet and think everything can be solved with technology, without a real understanding of on-the-ground operational costs." What just happened? The well has been poisoned. The audience will no longer listen to the plan to evaluate it on its merits. They will listen while looking for any evidence that confirms it is unrealistic and too technological. The idea's proponent has been disqualified before he even began. How do you expose it? You must be brave and expose the tactic itself. You could say, "Thank you for that introduction. However, I ask everyone to evaluate this idea based on its content and its numbers, not on preconceived notions about me or my generation. Let's discuss the argument, not the person." The 17th fallacy, the favorite weapon of those who lack an argument and want to project a false sense of superiority. The nitpicker's fallacy, or style over substance. This fallacy is a more cunning version of the straw man. Instead of distorting the argument's meaning, the perpetrator ignores the content entirely and focuses on a tiny, marginal formal error. They act like a sniper waiting for a spelling mistake, a slip of the tongue, or a historical date that's off by one day, just to fire at it and declare victory, ignoring the powerful army of evidence standing behind it. An academic example asterisk, a graduate student presents a 300-page dissertation with complex statistical analysis proving a new theory. In the defense committee, a professor says, "Your work is interesting, but on page 247, in footnote number 3, you cited the second edition of a certain book, whereas the third edition is more accurate. This casts a shadow of doubt on the accuracy of your entire research." This is a psychologically devastating tactic. The professor didn't debate the core theory or the statistical analysis. He used a highly marginal error to undermine the credibility of the entire work in front of everyone. How do you counter it? Maintain your calm and confidence. Thank the nitpicker for their keen observation, then firmly bring the discussion back to the main topic. Say, "Thank you for that valuable observation. I will be sure to correct it." Now, returning to the main point of Chapter 3, what are your thoughts on the correlation between variable X and the results we found? The 18th fallacy, one that exploits our noblest human emotions as a weapon. The appeal to pity fallacy. Here, logic is completely abandoned, and evidence is replaced with tears and sad stories. The goal is to evoke a sense of guilt or sympathy in the opponent or the audience to the point where they accept the argument without scrutiny. It is emotional blackmail disguised as an argument. A courtroom example asterisk, a defense lawyer says to the judge, "Your Honor, you cannot send my client to prison. It's true that he stole, but he did it to feed his starving children. Look at him, he is a broken man, and if you imprison him, his family will be homeless on the streets. Can your conscience bear that?" The story might be true and heartbreaking, but it is logically irrelevant to the fact that the crime of theft was committed. The lawyer here is not debating the evidence. He is trying to influence the judge's decision by appealing to his pity. How do you handle it? This requires a delicate balance of humanity and logic. You can show empathy for the personal situation, but at the same time, refocus on the logical issue. I completely understand how difficult the situation you're describing is, and it is truly unfortunate. However, what we are trying to evaluate here is whether argument X is valid based on evidence Y. Let's separate the two issues. The 19th fallacy, a cornerstone of any rational debate, and to violate it is to collapse the dialogue. The burden of proof fallacy. The golden rule of logic states, he who asserts must prove. This means the person making a new or extraordinary claim bears the responsibility of providing the evidence, not on others to disprove it. This fallacy occurs when the claimant evades their responsibility and shifts the burden of proof onto their opponent. A classic example from Carl Sagan. Person A. There is a tiny teapot orbiting the sun in an orbit between Earth and Mars. Person B. That's an amazing claim. How do you know? Do you have telescopic images or any evidence? Person A, committing the fallacy, no, the teapot is too small for any telescope to see. But can you prove it's not there? This is flipping the table. It's impossible to prove a negative across the entire universe. The person who claimed the teapot's existence is the one who must provide the proof. Without this rule, anyone could claim anything, the existence of invisible pink unicorns, an alien conspiracy to control our thoughts, and then demand the world to prove them wrong, which is an impossible task. The 20th and final fallacy for today, one that feeds on our temporary ignorance. The God of the Gaps fallacy. This fallacy occurs when we face a phenomenon we don't understand or for which we don't have a complete scientific explanation at the moment. And we immediately jump to the conclusion that the explanation must be supernatural or divine. It uses the gaps in our current knowledge as positive evidence for the existence of the supernatural. A biological example: scientists cannot explain in full detail every single step of how consciousness arises from the brain. This is a gap in their knowledge. Therefore, consciousness must be something non-physical, a soul given to us by a creator. The problem here is that we are using ignorance as an argument. We don't know is the starting point for scientific inquiry, not an end point from which we conclude the existence of supernatural forces. The history of science is a long history of filling these gaps. Lightning was the wrath of the gods until we understood electricity. Disease was evil spirits until we discovered germs. When you hear this argument, remember that I don't know is the most honest and scientific answer, and it is not synonymous with therefore, I know it's a supernatural being. Poisoning the well, the nitpicker's fallacy, appeal to pity, burden of proof, and God of the gaps. You have now added 5 new, precise tools to your mental toolbox. You are now equipped with 20 logical fallacies. In the next episode, we will conclude this foundational series with the last 5 fallacies. Until then, tell me in the comments, which of these 5 fallacies do you find to be the most insidious and impactful in public debates? Thank you for watching, and always remember, our ignorance today is not proof of anything, except that the journey of knowledge is not yet over. I'll see you in the next episode.